And because our Albion is truly open world, for the first time, you'll be able to explore this rich and detailed world seamlessly, with the freedom to go where you want from early in the game.
We can't wait to welcome you back to Albion's iconic capital city, Bowerstone. Home to Fairfax Castle, the old clock tower, and the legendary Heroes Guild.
Xbox just cooked. Fable just showed out, man. They just went crazy. I'm super excited for this. I hope you're all having a great day today, but I just want to get right into this because Xbox had their developer direct today. Everyone that I see in the gaming world watched it, and a lot of people are super excited for Fable because, dude, they just shut down so many concerns that people had going into this game. You know, one of the main concerns with Fable from Playground Games was going to be, can you choose your gender, or is there even going to be a character creator? A lot of people were really worried because so far in the trailers and, you know, even the little tidbits of gameplay they showed, they really only showed off the female hero. And, you know, I'm one of those people who is concerned about that because I always tend to pick male when I have like a character creator or an option. And I'm just one of those people who doesn't really love to play as a female when it comes to video games. And that's not hate or anything. That's just like more of a relatability thing. I feel like I can step more into the shoes of the protagonist when they're male because obviously I'm male. And, you know, Playground Game just showed today the character creator is extensive. It looks fantastic. You could actually change the way your character looks entirely, which is awesome. You could choose hair, you can choose face, facial features. It looks incredible, man. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. And once I saw that, I kind of let my guard down and I just got to enjoy what I was seeing from the direct. And there was a lot to enjoy, man. And we're going to get into it a bit more here. Now, as a fan of the OG Fables, Fable 1, Fable 2, Fable 3, you know, I was a little bit worried about how they were going to, you know, attack this game. What was the direction they were going to go in? Were they going to try to stick to the roots or were they going to try to just completely do something new? And I was a little bit worried that they were going to go all the way in doing something new, and it wouldn't really have much in common with the OG Fables, but, you know, I should have had way more faith in Playground Games because they've shown that they're, you know, very competent developers, and it's just showing again here. You know, they're really sticking to the roots in terms of gender choice, RPG mechanics, you know, morality system, all the freedom that you had, especially in those old games. Like I always think about Fable 2 and how much freedom you actually have in Fable 2, whether it's buying property or getting married, having children, you know, doing bad things, doing good things. You know, what are the consequences of all that? And so far from this showcase, I swear they knocked it out of the park, man. They first of all, they start off with showing us just like old Fable things. You know, you start off as a child and you get to pick your hero. You're in Albion, you're in Bowerstone, one of the fucking locations from Fable 2, which was my all-time favorite. It's just going to be so awesome to go revisit this in, you know, a modern setting with modern technology. It genuinely looks incredible, and they're keeping all that core stuff in the game. It honestly, to me, feels kind of like a Fable 2 remake. Even some of the spells that were being cast were literally almost looking like it was a copy paste from Fable 2, which I have no problem with personally. I would take a Fable 2 remake all day. So according to the devs, Fable is going to be a completely seamless open world, and we've never had that in a Fable game before. Most of the time in Fable, it's kind of just like interconnected locations with small open areas, but I wouldn't necessarily, you know, classify that as an open world. But according to the devs, this is going to be, you know, the truest version of open world and seamless. Apparently there's going to be no loading screens for anything, which is insane, especially for a game that looks as good as Fable does. As of right now, the graphics look incredible. There's so many, you know, different environments, different buildings, a lot of NPCs, a lot of, you know, tax on your CPU and GPU. You know, so it's going to be interesting to see how the game performs on release. I'm a little bit worried about that, but, you know, Forza Horizon looks amazing, and the performance of that game is, you know, pretty good and pretty consistent. So I don't think I'm too worried about that. Now, in the direct, Playground Games also showed off a bit of the combat and how, you know, the hero is going to interact with the rest of the game, right? And the rest of the world. And this is where I had to temper my expectations a little bit. Because, you know, the combat that they showed, don't get me wrong, it looks good, it looks fun and responsive, but the animations were a little wonky. You know, there wasn't a lot of physics that I saw. You know, the OG Fables, there's a lot of like cool ragdoll effects when you kill enemies and stuff, and I didn't really see that so far with what they showed today. I don't know if that'll change. You know, there wasn't a lot of textures in terms of like blood and dirt. And don't get me wrong, I don't need all that because Fable is kind of plays more like an arcadey game. Like I'm not looking for that. That's never been what Fable was, so it's not a huge deal. But I do think our expectations have to be tempered a little bit, you know, because it might not be this incredible combat experience that maybe some people are expecting, and maybe it is, who knows. I really do hope it is, but even if it's not, that's really not what Fable's about anyway. What it's about is just the freedom you have even in combat, the freedom to, you know, go melee, go ranged, you know, cast spells, and it looks like that's all in the game. So, you know, I'm not going to complain about it until I have hands on with the game and, you know, maybe I see something I don't like or that I need to talk about. But as of right now, looks good to me. I got no issues. Now, another thing I kind of want to get a little bit deeper on is something that, you know, holds a special place in my heart. Fable is bringing back employment, man. I love the fact that you can have a job in the OG Fables. I love the fact that you can, you know, work your way up and become, you know, like this tycoon. You can buy properties, and then with those properties, you make income. And then with that income, you buy more properties and more businesses. Eventually, you could literally rule the entire town of Bowerstone and most of Albion. And based on what I saw today, that is going to be the same thing with the new Fable. And that is just awesome. I can't stress enough how, you know, important that is for Fable games, just that sense of freedom. You know, they touched on getting married, having children. You could basically get divorced, remarry, do all these things, and all those things will have an effect on, you know, the NPCs. Like they showed something in the gameplay where if you buy a house, you could evict the tenant, and that tenant might be on the street later and he fucking hates your guts. And that is just like quintessential Fable. You know, there's nothing that gets better than that. If they can nail this, I'm telling you, this is going to be one of the games of the year, if not game of the year. Obviously, you know, you got GTA coming out. Apparently, we don't know if that's getting delayed or not. So, you know, that's probably going to sweep. But in terms of just my personal excitement, Fable right now is at the top of the list. Another thing that Fable is, you know, famous for is its morality system. That's like one of the first games to really introduce morality systems into a game, where your looks would change based on if you were evil or good. If you were bad, you would grow horns. If you were good, you'd have like a halo. You know, it's goofy, but it's funny at the same time, and it's a good visual representation of like your gameplay and your playthrough at the moment. Now, the devs did come out in an article stating that they will not be having, you know, morphing features in terms of your morality, and they basically said this is because a lot of different NPCs will like view you in a different way. So some NPCs might hate you, some NPCs might love you, and it wouldn't really make sense to, you know, screw that up when it comes to having morphing facial features, because why would you look like a devil to someone who likes you? It doesn't really make sense. And I kind of see where they're going with that. I wish maybe they kind of came to like, you know, a compromise with that. And I don't know how they would do it. I'm no expert, so I mean, I should probably just shut the fuck up. But anyway, it's not really a huge deal. And I think as long as the morality system in terms of NPC reactivity and, you know, your effect on the world of Albion, as long as that's on point, I'm really happy. And so far it looks like that's where they're trying to go. Now, of course, like they showed gameplay, but of course we didn't really see like full blown walkthroughs or anything like that. So we still don't really have like a massive grasp on the scale of, you know, morality, freedom, all that other stuff, even combat and the story. We have really know nothing about the story, which is kind of cool. But the devs really tried to focus hard on, you know, the morality system and the NPC reactivity, which I think is a great sign for the future. I don't think it's going to be an issue. I think honestly, Playground Games has everything they need to, you know, just knock it out of the park. And I hope they do. It would be literally incredible to finally get a Fable that is good, because we've been starving for so fucking long. It feels like I haven't played Fable since I was like fucking 10. And it actually, you know, it probably was like, I was probably like 12 or something. I don't even know. But, you know, I'm just super amped for it. And I think a lot of people online are as well. I've been seeing a lot of people go crazy saying that this is probably number one on their list, and I can't agree more. Now, just to end it off, I wanted to talk about something that personally I don't find as being a big deal, but it seems to be a topic of conversation, and that is that Fable is releasing on PlayStation 5 day and date, man. And I'm not gonna lie, I think this is like the most predictable thing of all time, especially when they delayed Fable originally. It kind of was like, okay, maybe they're planning something, and you know, I think that is the case, and for sure people are going to be upset. a lot of fanboys, Xbox fanboys, are going to be pissed off. I'm an Xbox guy down to the core as well, but I just think it's awesome that Xbox is, trying to like knock down those walls of exclusivity. I really love the fact that PlayStation players are going to get to experience these games, and I wish that PlayStation would do the same eventually, because dude, there's so many people that are missing out on great games because they can't afford one box over the other, and I just hope that this trend honestly continues. And I do kind of feel for like those OG Xbox fans a little bit, because they paid for an Xbox, and now it's like, what's really the point? If everything was on board with no exclusivity, it would be just awesome. But the fact that Sony is not with it and Xbox is, it is kind of a little bit of a slap in the face to people that only have an Xbox, because like, what are you paying for? Why did you buy this machine when you could just buy the other machine and have all the things that this one has, but more? So I see that argument, and a lot of Sony fans are using it as like a dunk, which makes no sense. It's like, bro, Sony's had like no games. You guys are like twerking for Xbox now, basically, because your own company can't make any games. But yeah, kind of a non-issue in my opinion. I think PlayStation fans are gonna love Fable. I think Xbox fans are gonna love Fable, as long as it is what they've shown today, which I think it will be. I'm not really worried, and I'm glad that I'm allowed to say that, because before today I was fucking super worried that it was just going to be a huge flop. This showcase was going to suck, and thankfully that was not the case, man. I hope you guys all enjoyed this video. Let me know what you guys think about Fable and Playground Games. Like, comment, subscribe. Peace.